With Levi, he and his sister got their marriage certificate. Elara, I am just inconvenienced temporarily in order to register the child. Feeling wronged, I look at the company dividends in my bank card growing month by month, and it's actually not that bad. A year later, he asked me to get back together, but I stroked my bulging belly and hugged my new husband and coldly rejected him. My child is not an illegal resident, so he doesn't need a cheap father. At that moment, Levi went crazy. I always thought Levi and I were in love. We have been in love for 8 years, and I have been with him from having nothing to becoming famous, countless nights. He panted softly in my ear and held my hand tightly. Elara, I'm glad I have you. Everyone thought we would get married until they saw the name in the bride's column on the marriage certificate he posted on his WeChat moments. Ivy, my half-sister, was also his first love. Elara. Having a child out of wedlock has a huge impact on a girl's reputation. Cece is your sister. Are you going to watch her die without helping her? Levi looked at me, a matter-of-fact look on his face. I looked at the boy in front of me who I had loved and accompanied throughout my youth, and I couldn't help but find it ridiculous. All he cared about was Ivy's reputation. What about me? Have you ever thought that if he married someone else, I would become a joke in everyone's eyes? He knows. Of course he knows my grievances, but he was certain that I would swallow all the grievances and support his every decision, just like every time before. Elara, just 1 year, perhaps because I didn't say anything, Levi took my hand, held it, trying to warm the coldness of my fingertips, and softened his tone. Aren't you most afraid of pain? When Cece gives birth to the baby successfully, we will raise the baby here. From now on, the 4 of us will live a good life. Which is better than anything else. With a sour taste in my throat, I looked at the tenderness in the man's eyes for a long while, then said, whatever, you live as many lives as you love. The year I met Levi, I was 18, at Ivy's birthday party. That day was also my birthday. It was just that everyone gathered around Ivy, cutting the cake and sending blessings in the brightly lit hall, while I was wearing the princess dress she didn't want anymore, holding a plate with steamed buns on it, and squatting on the stone platform in the yard to light candles. The candles were also picked up from Ivy's leftovers, but I didn't care. I just lit the candle and was about to make a wish, but when I looked up, I saw him, Ivy inside. Instead, he walked up to me with interest, looked down at me, and said in a pretentious manner, when making a wish without someone to witness it, the elves will be lazy. I didn't say anything. But I thought I must have looked very stupid at that time, so much so that Levi stood beside me without reacting until he bent down, whispered in my ear, and added in a teasing tone, so, I bear witness to you. Wait, are you willing to share half of the cake with me? Later, I thought about it countless times. Why did I, who was used to being on guard against everyone, fall in love with Levi so easily? Maybe it's because of the first time we met. That night, he stood under the bright moonlight, which was really heartwarming. Later, I knew that Levi went to my father to ask for investment that night. It is always difficult for college students to start a business at the beginning, especially when they meet a nouveau riche investor. I secretly took it to heart and began to casually share his professional knowledge with my father at the dinner table. When Jing's family showed up, I would deliberately irritate my father and make him vent his anger on me. In his sophomore year, he volunteered to be Levi's secretary, working 24 hours a day without pay. In these 8 years, I accompanied him as he moved from a 5-square-meter basement to the top floor of the Galaxy building, and watched him go from being discouraged to being full of energy and vigor. During the hardest times, we could only share a bucket of instant noodles a day, and even the boiled water was bought on credit by the store owner. At that time, he always liked to hold my hand, and said to me with red eyes, Elara, believe me, one day, I will never let you suffer any injustice from me again. One day. For 8 years I have always believed that that day would come, but now I realize that day is like a pie in the sky hanging on the wall, seemingly real but never to be reached, so, now I can't eat this cake anymore. Chapter 2, My Sister's Misophonia. Ivy returned to the villa. Her 4 32-inch suitcases were packed full. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but Ivy refused to let anyone help her. She just looked at me pitifully. Sister, you know, I have misophonia and I hate it most when others touch my things. Ivy is 3 months pregnant, but her pregnancy is not showing. But when she spoke, she subconsciously put the back of her hand against her lower back, leaned forward towards me, and smiled harmlessly. All of these were bought by Song specifically for the child. Actually, I told him not to use them. The child is only 3 months old. Why rush to buy them? But he just wouldn't listen. But I can understand that as a first-time parent, I want to give him the whole world. Oh, I almost forgot. Sister, you can't understand it now. She covered her lips apologetically, but her eyes were filled with unconcealable pride. I said nothing. Of course I can't understand that. The year I was born was the darkest year for my father. My mother was so poor that she had no money to go to the hospital. She could only hide in the rented house with leaks on all sides. She boiled a kettle of water, took a pair of scissors, and lay on the broken bed in pain for a day and a night to give birth to me. Then, on the 3rd day after I was born, she ran away. My father threw me back to my hometown in the countryside without even having a sip of breast milk. Later, my father became rich, remarried and had a younger sister. My younger sister enjoyed the best benefits. She was born in the most expensive single room in a private hospital, had 3 nutritionists, and even her swaddling clothes were high-end custom-made from a famous brand. As for me, it wasn't until I was 10 years old that my father brought me back home from the countryside. That was the first time I knew that I could take a bath every day, that there would be no dirt under my fingernails, and that there wouldn't be mice crawling over my body when I slept at night. Her father loved her so much that he left money for her to go abroad even when he went bankrupt. Levi loved her, and he broke up with her because he was afraid of wasting her best years. Now, I came back to my senses, looked at the still delicate and beautiful girl in front of me, and couldn't help but smile. It doesn't matter. I don't want to experience it either. Ivy's smile froze for a moment, as they stared at each other in silence. Footsteps sounded behind them. Then, she put on her bright smile again and turned to greet Levi, who had just entered the room. Song, you are back. Her eyes were gentle, and when she approached, she took the bag from Levi's hand. Just like a virtuous housewife, they took the bag from Levi, and they were in a tacit and intimate relationship. It makes me more of an eyesore. Thank you for your hard work today, Elara. Levi looked towards me, as if he had noticed my cold mood, and his voice had a hint of flattery. I didn't respond, but just looked at the men's handbag in Ivy's hand. It was the gift I gave her when she successfully negotiated her first project. Suddenly I felt a little dirty. You have misophonia. And his back. Just in time, I spoke again. My eyes met Ivy leaning on Levi's arm, and I nodded at the 4 giants next to me with my chin. Levi is not someone else, right? I smiled slightly. Sure enough, Ivy couldn't hold back her expression and her eyes turned red. Then, she pulled Levi's sleeve and started sobbing. Song, have I caused trouble for you and your sister? Of course not. Levi quickly denied it and gave me a look almost subconsciously. Elara, Cece is pregnant and her mood is unstable. Please be patient with her. Can you bear it? I can't bear it at all. Chapter 3. Another more possible. I didn't slap him, which was already the greatest courtesy to both of us. I gave him a cold glance and turned to go upstairs. I stopped after walking a few steps, looked at Levi and asked, do you want to move your things out of the master bedroom? Although Levi and I are not married, everyone in the villa recognizes me as the hostess. But now that Ivy has moved in and is the legal wife, everyone is at a loss. In particular, on the first day Ivy moved in, she made drastic changes to the furnishings of the villa and changed all my arrangements with a clear conscience. Nanny Chin Ma was filled with righteous indignation and came upstairs to reason with me. I reacted indifferently and said let her be. Anyway, I can't live here much longer. I have already started looking for a house online to move out. But before I move out, Levi and I still have some things to sort out. Thinking about it, I actually felt a little sleepy. I don't know what's wrong, but I've been feeling tired lately. I rubbed my eyebrows and said a few words to comfort Chin Ma. As soon as she left, I lay down on the bed with my clothes on and fell asleep. I had a very deep sleep and dreamed about the day when Levi confessed his love to me. He had drunk some wine and his face was very red, but his eyes were very clear. He was so nervous that he didn't know where to put his hands and feet. and his words were trembling with nervousness. He asked me if I was willing to accompany him all the way. He said that he hoped I would be there for him throughout the 3 meals a day and the 4 seasons of his life. He said that once he has chosen someone, he will not change. He spoke haltingly. But even in my dream, I still remember it clearly. In the dream, I rarely lost my composure and hugged him with tears in my eyes. Then we kissed passionately. How sweet it is in the dream. But why is the pain in my body so obvious, so intense, like the pain of countless needles? I opened my eyes and saw Levi sitting on the bed looking at me. I was slightly stunned. After all, ever since I promised him to give Ivy a legitimate status, he and I have had almost no contact, and he has never even stepped into the master bedroom. So, when I saw him sitting next to the bed, my first reaction was to be alert. I climbed out of bed and looked at him with an unfriendly look. "Are you here to get something?" Levi's face, but he quickly straightened it out. Stretched out his hand to hold mine, and whispered to me, "Elara, the relationship between us doesn't need that piece of paper to prove it." I felt sick to my stomach and avoided his hand. Well, no explanation is needed. I stepped onto the bed and put some distance between me and him, but the next second, he hugged me from behind. The long-lost scent instantly enveloped my whole body, giving me goosebumps and making me feel nauseous and want to vomit. Then, I actually vomited. Vomit. I pushed him away violently. The moment I pushed it open, I saw Levi's face turned extremely ugly. He stared at me in disbelief and said through his teeth, "Do you dislike me? You should go and accompany Ivy. She is pregnant and emotionally unstable." I reminded him expressionlessly. My explanation softened Levi's gaze. He walked over, raised his hand and gently rubbed my hair, and said in a gentle voice, "I knew that my Elara is the kindest sister and will still feel sorry for her sister. Elara, be good during this period. I will make it up to you later." My throat felt blocked, my stomach churned, and the nausea-inducing feeling became more and more pronounced. Then, I still couldn't help it and pushed him away. This time I rushed to the bathroom, all mixed up. Levi's face was extremely gloomy. But this time, before he could ask, I cleaned myself up first, wiped my mouth, looked up at him, and deliberately asked, "Levi," with my reaction. "Have you ever thought of another possibility?" Levi, without blinking, observing his expression, and blurted out in panic, "No way." At that moment, I suddenly felt relieved. "Well, if you give up, you won't be merciful in the future." Chapter 4, Find someone to discuss the plan. I chuckled, removed my hand, supported my thigh and slowly stood up, walked in front of him, and calmly flicked the dust off his shoulders, saying, "Don't worry, if I get pregnant, I won't have to ask you to register the child, Elara." Levi's voice was filled with displeasure, but he seemed to notice that my expression was too cold, and a complex expression flashed through his eyes. His gaze fell on my lower abdomen, and he hesitated to speak. "I know I have resentment in my heart, but I promise that I will compensate you." "Okay, how do you want to compensate?" I asked back. I proposed a compensation package to Levi, 15% of the company. He agreed. But before that, he still hoped that I could go to the hospital for a physical examination, and also hinted to me that if there were any accidents, he hoped that I could consider the overall situation. I smiled and nodded in understanding. In order to reassure him, I cooperated and went to the obstetrics department of the hospital. By the way, I made an appointment with someone. When I came out of the hospital, Ji Liancheng's car was parked on the side of the road. The bright license plate number with a series of 8s made its presence felt in public. When he saw me, he rarely came down, his eyes were fixed on me, and the first thing he said was, "You had an abortion." I couldn't help it. I rolled my eyes at him, walked around him and sat in the passenger seat, and casually threw the bag of medicine prescribed by the hospital on the armrest in the middle of the car. Ji Liancheng followed closely behind, got into the car, and looked through the transparent plastic bag to see the name of the medicine inside: drospirenone ethanol estradiol tablets, contraceptive pills, endocrine disorders. I glanced at Ji Liancheng's twitching eyelids, explained patiently, then turned my head and looked forward, saying, "Why don't we find a place to chat?" I had selfish motives in looking for Ji Liancheng. I had just acquired 15% of Levi's shares. And I know that Ji Lianqing is very interested in Levi's company. From starting his business to now, it is inevitable that Levi has had rivals along the way, and Ji Lianqing is the most powerful rival among them, so he is also my most advantageous choice. We met at a cafe. 15% of the shares, sell it to me. My company and Levi's are rivals. Why do I need this share? Do you have so much free time that you want to manage another company? Obviously. Ji Lianqing didn't expect me to be so straightforward. Looking at the information I handed over, a look of surprise rarely appeared on his usually cynical face, but he quickly calmed down, propped up his chin with one hand, stared at my face, and smiled again. As a competitor, I just want to kill my opponent, I said calmly. No, I know you have always wanted to acquire our company. Ji Lianqing's expression changed, he narrowed his eyes, and there was a hint of danger in his eyes. But I remained calm. I have a way to help you, but my requirement is that I invest 20% of the shares after the success. The air was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Do you know what you are doing? He spoke, his voice no longer teasing. He lowered his arm and folded it over the other, his thumb rubbing the silver ring on his index finger intentionally or unintentionally. His eyes never left me, and they were full of inquiry and evaluation. I remained calm, still with a proper smile on my face, and replied, yes, I'm backstabbing Levi. I admit it openly. Moreover, I am looking forward to the day when the backstab is successful. Then, I saw Ji Lianqing stand up. His tall body brought strong pressure and he approached me little by little. In an instant, my sides were held down by his arms, my heart trembled slightly. Apart from Levi, this is the first time I've been so close to a man in these years, especially when Ji Lianqing approached. The strong smell of perfume on his body, which was completely different from Levi's, had a strong stimulating smell that was impossible to ignore. Gradually, my breathing became heavy and my heart became confused. Good. Suddenly, I heard Ji Lianqing speak. I looked up in surprise and my eyes were immersed in the depth of his eyes. I was surprised at how readily he agreed, and also surprised at the sadness in his eyes that I couldn't understand. But anyway, the first step of my plan was accomplished. Chapter 5. Get out or I call the police. Your choice. Don't worry, Master Ji. I won't let you make a loss. I pretended to be calm, reached over the man's arm and picked up the cup, raised it towards him, passed it to him and took a sip, reminding him subtly, we can now take the next step. I tilted my chin towards the opposite side, but Ji Lianqing seemed not to understand my hint. He still maintained his current posture, which was beyond the safe distance, and even bent forward intentionally. My face was getting hot unconsciously. Looking at Ji Lianqing's cynical look, I felt a little helpless and even had no way to escape. Ji Lianqing is good-looking, with a fair and clean face. One can tell at a glance that he has never suffered. His eyebrows are sharp and his eyes are bright, and he is full of vigor and vitality, unlike Levi who is reserved. His handsomeness is bold and intense, therefore, he is even more irresistible. I leaned back unconsciously, staring at the man in front of me. Just when I was about to lose control and explode, suddenly, a cool breeze blew, and the black shadow in front of me suddenly moved away. Okay, but I also hope you can promise me one thing. As I was speaking, Ji Lianqing had already sat back opposite me. Without even looking at me, he took out a pen and signed his signature on the document I handed over. He pressed it with 2 fingers, then handed it back to me, staring at me with a burning gaze. I hope that after this is done, you can become my personal secretary. I was stunned. I don't consider myself to be outstanding. What's more, I have the reputation of a traitor and I am ready to be banned from the industry later. But Ji Lianqing asked me to be his personal secretary. I couldn't figure it out, so I went back to the villa with a worried look on my face. But as soon as I entered the door, I saw my things had been thrown out and were scattered all over the yard. My pupils shrank and I stood there in a daze. At this time, the servant also ran over in a hurry and explained, Miss Gu, Mr. Gu and Mrs. Gu are here. As soon as they entered the door, they asked you to vacate your things. We can't stop them. The servant looked worried, and when he saw that I didn't say anything, he was even more at a loss. I watched all this happening in the middle of the yard in silence. In fact, when I moved out of the GU family, I didn't take almost anything with me. Later, Levi and I moved from a rental house of a few square meters to a villa of 100 square meters. Little by little, day by day, I finally had my own property. For example, the wind chime that has been broken into several pieces on the ground was what I bought for myself with my first part-time job. For example, the strawberry bear that was already dirty on the ground was something Levi had caught with great difficulty when we had our first date. For example, the bottles and cans on the ground that have been broken into pieces are the empty bottles that Levi and I collect wherever we go. These are my real memories after I left the GU family. But now, they are lying here like garbage. I clenched my fists, my chest heaving violently. The scenery in front of me gradually turned blood red. My eardrums were buzzing violently, and even the servants' voices gradually faded away. Ivy came out holding her belly. What she saw was me standing in the ruins with a sullen look on my face. I had an undisguised smug look on my face, and I pretended to walk towards me, pretending to be nervous and concerned. "Sister, are you okay? Mom and Dad said that it's inconvenient for you to live in Goo's house now, so they specially packed up your things and arranged another place for you." Snap. I didn't give Ivy a chance to finish her words. I slapped her in the face with my backhand. The moment I slapped her in the face, I felt a sense of relief, as if the depression I had been feeling for days had dissipated. However, I was kind-hearted, and while I slapped her, I also held her arm firmly with my other hand to prevent her from falling to the ground. Everyone was stunned, including Ivy. After all, from the very beginning, I had always been submissive. Even when she came into my house, I didn't do anything extreme. I was as calm as a stagnant pool of water. But now, this stagnant pool of water has stirred up the storm. "Mother Chin, please clean up the things on the floor." Ignoring Ivy's incredulous look, I gave instructions to Chin's mother, Ivy, and me in confusion. Then, Ivy cried, "Dad, Mom, and Sister beat me." I was not surprised that Ivy complained. Seeing my biological father and stepmother rushing to Ivy with panicked looks on their faces, holding her in their arms like a child and glaring at me, I felt surprisingly calm. "You want me to leave without even checking whose name is on this house? You threw the owner's stuff out without telling him. Ivy, you apologize or I call the police. Your choice." Without waiting for them to speak, I spoke directly. This sentence made Ivy stop crying, and the faces of the man and woman behind her turned pale instantly. The chaos came to Levi's attention. When he came back, Ivy started crying again. "Song, my sister wants to drive me away." Levi didn't look very good, especially when he looked at me. There was a layer of disappointment in his eyes. Even the first thing he said to me was, "Alara, I thought you would be sensible." Sensible. I curled the corners of my lips and thought it was the funniest joke I had ever heard. Can he still take me for granted as his property? I shrugged, pointed at the mess in the yard with my chin, and said back, "You are sensible. Take your wife away from my villa." Levi was even more embarrassed. Although he funded this villa, it is indeed in my name, because he said that he would give me absolute sense of security and make up for the lack of living under someone else's roof since I was a child. Indeed, I was really touched the moment I got the property certificate. I don't care how expensive the villa is, but I care about Levi, whose heart and eyes are filled with me. At that time, his eyes were clear and sincere. He held my hand tightly and made a promise to me. He wants to give me everything he can and make sure I don't regret accompanying him along the way. 25-year-old Levi really loves me, and I really love him too. But now, I look at this man who is still as handsome as ever, and whose temperament has become more stable as time has gone by. I know very well that we can never go back to the past. Alara, I know you are angry that Cece packed your things without telling you. I will compensate you. During this time, you can stay in a hotel. Levi looked at the mess outside the house and saw my cold face. He seemed to feel guilty and came forward to hold my hand to comfort me. I avoided him, didn't give him a chance, and went straight upstairs. I took out the property ownership certificate from the safe in the study, walked over to Ivy, opened it, and said, "This is my home. You are the one who can leave." Ivy was protected closely by her father and stepmother. and had never suffered such humiliation. When she saw me producing evidence and confidently driving her away, her eyes immediately turned red. Then, she covered her stomach and started crying out in pain. Ouch, ouch. Gu Alara, Cece is your sister. Do you have to be so serious about this? Dad began to feel distressed. Alara, Cece is pregnant. Can you please let her go? Considering that your aunt treated you well in the past, pregnant women cannot stand stimulation. The stepmother began to show weakness. Alara, can you please stop making trouble? Levi started to get impatient. But I just closed the property certificate with a blank face and pointed at Ivy. So, if you don't want to be kicked out, apologize to me. Ivy's face turned even paler. She bit her lips tightly and looked at me with resentment in her eyes. Don't you want to? Okay, I didn't care and was about to call the security guard to kick them out. Then, I heard Ivy's voice. I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't understand. Ivy's apology sounded extremely aggrieved. Even my dad and Levi looked at me with disappointment. My dad even called me cold-blooded. Regardless of sisterhood, I smiled and replied coolly, if Dad doesn't want his little daughter to suffer, he can bring his little sister home to live with him. My dad suddenly fell silent. A few years ago, my father went bankrupt and his 500 square meter villa was auctioned off. Now he and his stepmother can only live in a one-bedroom apartment in the suburbs. How can they squeeze in an Ivy? At this time, Aunt Sheen had already packed up her things and was leading people to move my things back into the house. No need for that. I stopped him. I don't want any of it anymore. He wants compensation. Mother Sheen paused, looked down, and said with some distress, Miss Gu. Some of these are your treasures, and you are not allowed to touch them during normal cleaning. I waved my hand to stop her from continuing. It doesn't matter. If the old doesn't go, the new won't come. To be honest, Levi's expression became even uglier. I knew he was hurt by my words. But, so what? Chapter 7, Men's Shamelessness Has No Limit. Levi received a phone call and left in a hurry. Ivy was humiliated by me. She stayed quiet for the whole night. But it was just one night. In the second half of the night, the lights in the villa were suddenly on. Sheen's mother hurried upstairs and knocked on my door desperately. Gu, that person, has a severe stomachache. I made a prompt decision and dialed 120. Soon, an ambulance arrived and took Ivy to the hospital. Instead of following along, I sent Levi a text message. Levi didn't come back for the next few days. I'm not surprised, but Sheen's mother often talked in my ear and spoke up for me. She said that Ivy was simply occupying the magpie's nest. How could a younger sister occupy her older sister's fiancé? If she did that, she would be scolded to death, I lightly said. But now people on the internet say that their love is stronger than gold. I'm not making this up. The news broke in the media the day after Ivy was hospitalized. Hashtag upstart Levi's newlywed wife is pregnant. Technology upstart Levi dotes on his wife like his life. The most handsome new rich man and the most beautiful pregnant wife. The title is eye-catching. Click in and you will see both pictures and texts. The content describes in detail the innocent feelings between Levi and Ivy, who were childhood sweethearts. When they were young, he was her childhood sweetheart. Due to family changes, his family went bankrupt, but in order to be worthy of the girl he loved, he started a business with great difficulty, and finally became successful and married a beautiful wife. Happy ending. How beautiful. It was accompanied by a photo of Levi sitting beside the bed, carefully peeling an orange for Ivy who was sitting on the bed. The man's eyes were gentle and the woman's eyes were tender. Just looking at the photos gives rise to endless reverie. I exited the tablet page expressionlessly, and then WeChat rang. How is the content? If you are angry now, please stay angry. Anger can keep people awake. Ji Lianqing's WeChat. The handwriting reflects the character of the person, especially lacking. It was also accompanied by a mean emoticon. I couldn't help but feel amused, so I tapped my fingers on the keyboard and replied. What do sober people usually do? The other party was probably thinking, because I saw WeChat was always typing. Then, a message popped up, with 2 concise words, get him. I raised my eyebrows. My fingertips hovered over the dialog box, looked at these 2 words, and slowly raised the corners of my lips. Levi and Ivy have enjoyed the benefits brought by the internet. In just a few days, the heat spread quickly. Send blessings to the whole network. Even the company's orders are increasing rapidly. Unfortunately, it didn't take long for public opinion to reverse. It originated from a recording that came out from within the company. What do you mean by love is stronger than gold? The girlfriend of our CEO Song is his secretary. She has been with him since he started his business, but now that he has become successful, he has a new wife. Secretary GU and our CEO Song have been in love for 8 years. CEO Song's villa is still in her name. We all thought they would get married. We dare not say it to others, but secretly, we all feel sorry for Secretary GU. What a good girl. The recording was posted online, sparking a heated discussion. Some say the recording is fake. It is said that there is no smoke without fire. They even started to dig up the secret of Secretary GU. In fact, this Secretary GU does exist and has indeed been with Levi in starting a business, but their relationship is confusing, especially since someone found out that my Secretary GU also lived in Levi's villa. This kind of gossip on a moral level does not constitute a legal offense, but it is a fatal blow to Levi's company. In the internet age, any disturbance can affect the company's operations. What's more, Levi was already feeling guilty, so he came to me before the popularity reached its peak. Elara, this company is our joint efforts. I believe you will not watch our efforts go to waste. He held my hand, his tone firm. I am on vacation. I pulled my hand back expressionlessly, with no emotion in my tone. This was his decision. On the second day after Ivy moved into the villa, he suspended my work, saying that it was to give me some time to relax and to reduce gossip. He said it was to protect me and prevent me from being criticized in the company. But now, Levi has found me again, hoping that I can stand up for the company. What do you want me to do? I didn't take it too seriously. Seeing Levi's face stiffen, I asked again calmly. Sure enough, Levi's expression changed from gloomy to bright, and he smiled gently. Elara, I know you are considering the overall situation. He is still very sure that I still love him. After all, from the time Ivy moved into the villa until now, although my attitude has been distant, I have never mentioned drawing a line in the sand, nor have I moved out of the villa. Levi is confident. He is confident that I will always wait for him. I looked at Levi's relieved expression and suddenly found it ridiculous and wanted to laugh. The scene of Wang Baochuan digging wild vegetables on TV unconsciously emerged in my mind. Why? He also thinks that I, who have been in love with him for 8 years, can be willing to dig wild vegetables. Elara, in fact, this matter only requires you to come forward and say a few words to clarify that we have only been superiors and subordinates for so many years. And living in the villa is just to make it easier to take care of my sister. Elara, netizens are all looking for something new, who will hold on to it when the rumors die down. Levi was very confident. I listened without saying a word. Perhaps my gaze was too peaceful, which made Levi feel guilty. When he was about to say something, he saw me raise the corners of my lips and agree readily. Okay, I promise you. Chapter 8. Why do you want to push yourself further? My cooperation made Ivy think that I had given in, and she became fearless when she came back. At dinner, she sat at the dining table, holding her belly, and picked and chose the dishes made by Chin Ma. Mother Chin, are these things edible? My body is special now. If you don't know who you should take care of first, then don't do it. Ivy looked at me with a proud look in her eyes. I sat at the other end and found her affectation disgusting. It's a pity that all the delicious food on Chin Ma's table was ruined. I lowered my head and served myself some soup. Out of sight, out of mind. But Ivy was still like a flea, insisting on jumping in front of me. It's so sweet. Don't you know pregnant women can't eat sweets? If it causes me to have gestational diabetes. Chin Ma, are you the one who wants to harm me, or is someone behind the scenes instigating you to do so? What are you thinking? Ivy lost her temper and threw things. Mother Chin had already been wronged all night, and after hearing what Ivy said, she couldn't help but retort, GU, we have been cooking according to the previous tastes for such a long time without any problems. Why is it that this and that are not right when you come? If you are not satisfied, you can hire a chef to cook for you separately in the future. These words made Ivy's face turn blue. She froze in place, her eyes shifting from Chin's mother to me, who was sitting opposite her drinking soup leisurely. Then, she suddenly covered her stomach and cried out, "Ouch, ouch." My fingers holding the spoon paused, but before I could open my mouth, I heard a flurry of footsteps at the door. Then, Levi held Ivy tightly like a flower protector. The man and the woman are in love, a match made in heaven. I suddenly felt that the soup in the bowl had lost its taste. Put down the spoon and just look at them. Although I didn't say anything, the alienation and coldness in my eyes made Levi, who was about to preach, speechless. "Song, I'd better not live here anymore. Everyone here belongs to my sister. The villa is in her name. I'm just like a guest. I don't know anything about this place." Ivy held Levi's arm. With a look of grievance in her eyes, Mother Chin listened, holding her breath, and blurted out, "Miss Gu, although you are a guest, none of us will neglect you, Mother Chin," Levi shouted in a stern voice, which made Chin's mother at a loss. Then, he turned his gaze to me, with some struggle in his eyes. I watched it and found it somewhat amusing. Levi wanted to do something, but he still hesitated and struggled, or, before he did something, he thought that showing such emotions would make him seem not such a jerk. I looked at him calmly. He let go of Ivy as if after a struggle between his conscience and his desires. He slowly walked up to me, took out a document from his briefcase and placed it in front of me. I lowered my head and followed his hand down to the document. At a glance, I guessed his intention. "Elara, after much thought, I think you should move out. This villa will be temporarily transferred back to you. We can talk about it after the storm has passed." He discussed it with me, but they said it was just a discussion. All the documents were complete, and they were just waiting for me to sign the transfer. I looked down at the black words on the paper, then looked up again and met the tenderness and affection in the man's eyes. He was even considerate enough to prepare a pen for me. I nodded and smiled. In his relieved expression, I reached out and pushed the document away, saying in a cold and calm voice, "Well, since it's a transfer, the price is clearly marked and the payment is settled." For a moment, I saw Levi's face froze, as if he didn't expect me to ask for it so directly. But before he could speak again, I looked up and added another sentence, "I want cash." Then, I saw Ivy's face froze. Chapter 9. Leaving with the family, Levi agreed. I contacted lawyers and assistants, and they sent me bags of cash. During the process, Ivy's face turned pale and blue, until the last bag of cash was put into the trunk by someone I arranged for. She couldn't help but make a sarcastic remark. "I thought my sister had been following Song for so many years, and her love was unwavering." Levi's face even darker as he stood in the night, from the initial shares to the payment of money today. He could vaguely feel that something was wrong. It's like I'm gradually drawing a line between me and him. If Ivy threw things at me in the yard last time, I took out the ownership of the villa out of spite. So now, he bought the villa with real money, and the payment was real. "Elara, I'm just pretending. Don't you trust me?" He couldn't help it, so he came forward, took my hand, and spoke in a low voice. As he spoke, he glanced at Ivy and then turned to me. His eyes filled with deep inquiry and a faint glow of fire, but in the moonlight, my expression was so gloomy that he couldn't see it clearly. "It's all just a show. Do you believe me?" I asked back. As expected, magic defeats magic. When I asked this, Levi fell silent. He let go of my hand and smiled. "Elara, if I didn't trust you, I wouldn't give you shares and cash. I do all this just to make you feel safe." His tone was gentle. "Well, I feel very safe now," I replied affirmatively. Patted the roof of the car with my hands, met Levi's eyes, showed my first sincere smile tonight, and said, "After all, to see whether a man loves you or not, it is not about what he says, but what he does." I didn't deliberately lower my voice, so Ivy can hear it perfectly. I did it on purpose. Looking at Ivy's suddenly pale face, a mischievous smile flashed in my eyes. I deliberately reached out my hand, patted Levi's face again, and smiled. "So, don't worry, I also know what to do." What I said seemed to give Levi a reassurance. Seeing the surprise in his eyes, my smile deepened. Pulling my hand back, I shouted, "Auntie Chin, Mother Chin, if Miss Gu is not satisfied with your care, you can come with me." Chinma, okay. Mother Chin had been holding a lot of grudges for a long time. After hearing what I said, she didn't even want to take the luggage with her. She quickly got into the car. After she was seated firmly, she raised her neck and looked at Ivy with a disdainful look. Ivy, after Chinma did this, many people inside and outside the hospital were eager to give it a try. Bodyguard, Miss Gu, are you planning to buy a house and hire a worker? Maid, Miss Gu, when it comes to hiring workers, it's better to hire experienced people than recruiting new ones. I think I can do it. Driver, Ms. Gu, how about I take you to the west? I will not come back after this trip. Mr. Song will not be reluctant to give me an extra car, Levi, so I left the villa. Taking with me the driver, the servants, the bodyguards, and Chin's mother, Levi didn't expect that when I decided to leave, he had already asked Ji Lianqing to buy a villa nearby. When I arrived with my team, I saw Ji Lianqing's tall and long-legged figure waiting at the door. Mother Chin, Miss Gu, you eat very well. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I got off the car, asked someone to put my few luggage in, and walked in front of Ji Lianqing. Mr. Ji has a good nose, I teased. Ji Lianqing still had that lazy expression, smiling, looking at the scene behind me, and raised one eyebrow. I heard you were moving in late at night, and thought you were going to help, but when I came over to see, I was just superficial. After saying this, he pinched his nose bone in a melancholy manner. I was amused and thanked him again. Without you, I have nowhere to stay with so many people tonight. I was speaking from the heart, although I had planned to leave a long time ago. What happened tonight was indeed a last-minute decision, so it was all thanks to his quick action. Looking at the man's stern yet spirited features, my gaze softened and I thanked him sincerely. Ji Lianqing, although we are a cooperative, I also thank you for your help during this period. My words made the man in front of me, who was originally smiling rogue, look unusually unnatural. His body unconsciously straightened, the moonlight cast on his face, making it appear even deeper. He looked at me, and emotions that I couldn't understand gradually welled up in his eyes. Tell me something to thank you for. I heard him say that his voice was hoarse, but it made my mouth dry. My cheeks also started to burn, subconsciously avoiding his gaze. I smiled. It's too late today. When things are settled, I will invite you to stay with me. Chapter 10 My relationship with Mr. Song. I said it politely and courteously. Ji Lianqing is also a smart man and he can tell that I am ordering you to leave. He looked at me, and because of his height advantage, I was completely overshadowed by him, and his heart beat faster. Ji Lianqing and Levi feel differently, perhaps due to different innate conditions. Levi has experienced the ups and downs of the business world and is introverted and restrained, sometimes even smirking, but Ji Lianqing, perhaps because he has always been successful, is always full of vigor and vitality, strong and outward, straightforward and dazzling. I am not an ignorant girl, and I can vaguely sense his feelings for me, but I don't want to think too much about this. It doesn't matter if you're scared or tired, but now, I really don't want to touch feelings again. I still had a decent smile on my face, and I looked at the man with a calm but distant gaze. Finally, his expression changed slightly, and he lowered his eyes, as if he was annoyed or aggrieved. He walked past me with his long legs and muttered, "You are so heartless, just throw it away after use." The breeze blows on my face and my heartstrings move slightly. I pretended not to hear. Soon, Ji Lianqing's car disappeared into the night. I was still standing at the door. Mother Chin came over and asked, "Ms. Gu, is this gentleman your new friend?" I shifted my gaze towards Chin's mother. The word gossip was clearly written on her face, and she looked so excited that she couldn't contain herself. "And, I am relieved," I laughed, looked away into the night, and said calmly, "New boss." Levi invited well-known media in the city to hold a press conference, very grand and formal. On that day, I was invited to attend as another party involved. The moment I appeared in front of the media, countless reporters swarmed in, vying to ask about the relationship between me and Levi. Although there were bodyguards maintaining order, there was still a brief chaos at the scene. "Everyone, I invited you all here today to clarify the nonsense that has been going on for a while. Secretary Gu and I will answer all your questions one by one." In the chaos, I heard Levi's voice. He was dressed in a suit and tie today, helping Ivy to sit down. Looking like a gentle and caring husband, he was also very friendly when facing the reporters. "Everyone, please give Secretary GU some space." With him controlling the situation like this, the reporters temporarily stepped back to make way for me. I continued walking forward, and saw that not only Ivy and Levi were sitting on the stage, but even my biological father and stepmother were there. I couldn't help but raise the corners of my lips in self-mockery. Looking at them sitting upright on the stage, they looked like a happy family of four, and the empty seat seemed very redundant. Extra position, extra me. Just like when I was still living in Goo's house, Ivy's family of three always had matching tableware on the dining table, but I had a separate portion. It's like I'm a guest in this house, living under someone else's roof. Later, I moved out of Goo's house and lived with Levi. I bought a lot of matching tableware and put them in the cupboards at home. He also joked and asked me if I had obsessive-compulsive disorder. Otherwise, why there could only be one color of tableware on the table. I have never explained it, but perhaps deep down in my heart, I just long for the warmth of home. Unfortunately, when I came to my senses, I was already sitting in my seat. Without wasting time, Levi took out the prepared opening remarks and explained my relationship with the GU family, my relationship with Ivy, and my relationship with him in front of the media reporters. According to Levi, the GU family and the Song family were good friends. When the Song family was in trouble, my father generously helped them. In the early stages of the company's business, he even arranged for me to study in his company. Secretary GU and CEO Song are of similar age, handsome and beautiful, and have been together for many years, but there has been no further development. The reporter raised an objection. Levi and me wasn't innocent. After all, in order to keep a low profile, we never admitted our relationship in the company over the years, but we didn't deliberately hide it either. Boss Song, everyone in the company is saying that Secretary GU is the boss wife. Yes. Since you started your business, Secretary GU has always been by your side, going in and out with you. Is it just a superior subordinate relationship, compared to Secretary GU, who you spend every day with? Her sister went abroad a few years ago. When she returned this time, you also got married in a flash. The reporter's questions were more pointed than the last. Gradually, Levi's expression became more and more ugly, and he looked at me frequently. I lowered my eyes, knowing that he could no longer control the situation. After all, I had been assisting in all the meetings over the years, and this time, I cleared my throat and spoke slowly. Everyone. Regarding the relationship between Mr. Song and me, I would like to take this opportunity to clarify. He and I are not in a completely superior subordinate relationship. As soon as these words came out, there were gasps all around me. I didn't even need to look. I could feel the sharp gaze from the side. But I didn't care, slowly stood up, faced the countless flashes, and continued to say the following words. Chapter 11 Probably, it doesn't matter, Mr. Song, he is also my brother-in-law. The wind direction is not right. No one expected me to say this suddenly. After a few seconds of silence, someone murmured something. Isn't this nonsense? Mr. Song married Ivy. As soon as he opened his mouth, there was more discussion. Now she is my sister-in-law. But what about before? After so many years together, I don't believe you saying it doesn't matter. Maybe Mr. Song took over the sisters from the GU family. Didn't the GU family go bankrupt? Mr. Song puts the elder sister in the living room and the younger sister in the room. Levi listened, feeling even more embarrassed. If it weren't for the public, he would have rushed to me and scolded me for wasting time and talking nonsense. But now, he could only be patient and explain. I have seen Secretary Goo's hard work in the company over the years. Now that we are a family, we must help each other. Regarding those nonsense, I hope everyone will be rational. What he said was very high-sounding. It made me feel sick and want to vomit, but I smiled in response. At this time, my father also stood up and took control of the situation. He said in a calm voice, I have always believed in Levi's character, so I left my eldest daughter with him to gain experience. As for the relationship, I can only say that the Song family's child is loyal and affectionate. He and Cece have been childhood sweethearts. and even though they have been apart for a few years, their feelings for each other are truly sincere. I clenched the corner of my clothes, and didn't know whether to cry or laugh after hearing my father's words of defense. It turns out that my dad also has a kind fatherly side, just not for me. His protection is only for Ivy. My throat was bitter, and I listened in silence to Levi and my dad's conversation, ignoring me in both their words. But at this moment, a sneer came from the crowd, devoted and loyal. But here I have photos of Mr. Song and Secretary Gu going out together, and according to university teachers and classmates, Gu Alara is Mr. Song's girlfriend. I saw the reporter took out a stack of photos and passed them around. Then, everyone's expressions changed again. They looked at Levi like he was a scumbag. One female reporter even walked up to him, threw the photo on the table, and asked sullenly, "Mr. Song, judging from the photos alone, are you and Secretary Gu just an ordinary relationship? The photo shows me helping a drunk Levi away. Our actions were intimate, and his hand was on my waist affectionately. Under the lighting angle, it is ambiguous and tender. Levi's face didn't look good. Or are you just pretending to be in a normal relationship with the Gu family, wandering between the Gu sisters and playing both sides?" The female reporter was aggressive. There was silence all around me. The blame fell on Levi, and several people in the Gu family looked unhappy. Some reporters even asked about me. "Ms. Gu Alara, you never clarified your past relationship with Mr. Song, so were you two together?" Hit the nail on the head. I sat quietly in my seat, facing the reporter's pursuit and probing gazes, but my mood remained calm and I moved my lips. Then, I denied it. "Probably, no, this approximation is very subtle." Everyone's expressions became meaningful. Soon, someone followed suit. "They are not together, but Mr. Song's villa is still registered under Secretary Gu's name." Chapter 12: The diary that was once stolen. The reporter was talking about the villa that I had just transferred ownership of. Levi immediately gained confidence after hearing this, and retorted in a deep voice, "Nonsense." Ivy immediately took advantage of the situation and said, "My sister is only staying at Song's villa temporarily. I also believe that Song only has me in his heart." I frowned as I looked at Ivy's affectionate eyes when she looked at Levi. I could tell something was wrong, not to mention journalists. "Ms. Gu, what you mean is that you believe that Mr. Song loves you wholeheartedly, but, Ms. Gu Alara, your feelings towards Mr. Song are different." Really, just as I expected, Ivy clearly intended to mislead the reporters. Even after the reporter asked a question, he pretended to be at a loss, covered his mouth and gave me a guilty look. "Sister, I didn't mean it." I watched her performance coldly. Perhaps the coldness in my eyes was too strong, which made Ivy shudder. Her eyes turned red and soon filled with tears. "It's just that, sister, if you don't come out and clarify at this time, Song Hui will continue to be misunderstood." I have to admit that I can't act like Ivy, crying in front of the camera, with a pale face, like a willow in the wind that would break at the slightest touch. Her words were more certain. Everyone looked at me with inquiring eyes, but some people still raised objections, thinking that Ivy's statement was just one-sided, especially the female reporter who snorted coldly and presented evidence again. "I heard that Mr. Song's legal team has just completed the property transfer. So, Ms. Ivy, you are the one who is staying here temporarily, right? Moreover, you were only 3 months pregnant and you got married a month ago. It is hard to doubt that you are a mistress who used your pregnancy to get ahead. What's more, from the time Mr. Song started his business until now, it has always been Secretary Gu who has been with Mr. Song, and you just returned to China this year, and not long after returning, you became Mr. Song's legal wife." Ivy's face turned red from being choked, and I couldn't help but look up to this capable figure in front of the crowd. If the situation was not inappropriate, I would have wanted to applaud her. It's just my mouthpiece. It seems that with her here, I am not needed in today's game. And just when everyone was pointing fingers at Ivy and Levi, she seemed to finally be unable to hold it anymore. She covered her chest and took several heavy breaths. Then, she made up her mind and took out a notebook from under her body. "This is my sister's diary. which explains that she has had a crush on Song since she was 18 years old. For so many years, it has always been unrequited love. I was reading Ivy's diary. I was a little dazed. The diary in her hand looked cheap and worn out, and the tulip printed on the cover had faded. But I still recognized that this notebook was indeed mine. March 22nd. Sunny, I know his name is Levi, and I know every word corresponding to his name, but every time he comes, he seems to ask his father for help. If I can help him, will he remember me more? April 8th. Cloudy, I helped Levi drive away a competitor and was severely scolded by my father. So, next time he comes, can I ask him to talk to me for a while? May 21st. Sunny, Levi brought me a gift, an air bottle from Sri Lanka. Very interesting. More interesting than the diamond necklace I brought for my sister. I like it very much. Ivy is still reading, in full view of everyone. The most secret of my girlhood was torn open. I was numb, my head was buzzing, and the noise in the crowd seemed to fade away. A nameless anger surged in my heart and I couldn't control my behavior. By the time I reacted, I had already rushed to Ivy, snatched the diary from her hand with one hand, and slapped that annoying face hard with the other hand. Ivy, you stole my diary. Chapter 13, The Weak and Helpless by Yue Guang. Even Levi thought that I fell in love with him as we spent time together. I never told the secret of my secret crush, and all the girlish feelings were buried in my heart along with the disappearing diary. But now, my most sincere loves are made public. With Levi's betrayal, it seems more like a joke. My hands were shaking violently and uncontrollably. Before I could come to my senses, I felt pain in my shoulder and was pushed away. Elara, you are crazy. Your sister is pregnant. You are so angry that you hit someone. My father glared at me fiercely, protected Ivy with heartache, and raised his hand to teach me a lesson. She stole my diary. But what did you say at that time? I asked with a cold face. For a moment, I saw the discomfort on my dad's face. Really? This incident was the reason for me to move out of Goo's house. Although we lived under the same roof, my room was never locked, according to my stepmother. It is difficult for the maid to clean my room if it is locked, even though Ivy's room is already equipped with the most advanced fingerprint lock. When I was a girl, I still hoped to be treated fairly, so I plucked up the courage to ask my dad to lock my room, but he refused with a sentence. What valuables do you have in your room? Why are you being so pretentious? Not long after, my diary disappeared. I searched the whole house but couldn't find it, so I suspected someone had stolen it. I hope my dad will check the surveillance video. It was the first time I cried. Even though the diary was not a valuable item to them, it contained all my girlish thoughts. Those unspeakable secrets are priceless treasures to me. But no matter how much I cried or begged, my dad always looked impatient. Especially when I said that my diary was stolen, he slapped me in the face and yelled, "Who do you think is the thief in this house? You are the only one who looks like a thief." The thief cries catch the thief. Finally, with a red and swollen face, I left the GU family with a few books and clothes, without looking back. So, in fact, he has always known what the truth is, but he is protecting his beloved Alara's little daughter. Even now, it is still like this. What do you mean by stealing? You didn't put it away carefully, and Cece found it. I haven't scolded you yet. You little girl is a bad boy, thinking about you all day to seduce men like this. Shameless thing. He pointed at my nose and scolded me. Even the stepmother took the opportunity to say, "Alara, Cece knows that you like Levi, so she went abroad for so many years. Actually, she wanted to create opportunities for you, but you can't force relationships. You've been with Center Jin for so many years, but he has someone else in his heart. There's nothing you can do." As soon as my stepmother said this, the camera immediately shifted from me and the GU family to Levi. In front of the camera, his expression was dark and unpredictable. There was even a reporter who didn't mind the excitement and asked, "Boss Song, so Secretary GU has been paying attention to you unilaterally all these years, right?" The reporters looked at Levi. Levi looked at me. I saw struggle, forbearance, and a fleeting sense of guilt and remorse on his face. It was rare that he actually felt guilty. Was it because he had heard the honest feelings in my diary? So at this moment, He regretted pushing me out in front of others and serving as a ridiculous fig leaf for him and Ivy. I cracked my knuckles to suppress the surging emotions, and just as I was about to ruthlessly tear off this filthy piece of cloth, suddenly, a conversation sounded in the air. Centerjin, what are you thinking about? You and Gu Alara are ready to get married, but you turned around and got the marriage certificate with Ivy. Are you worthy of Alara? You don't understand. Cece was violated because of me. She has a special body and cannot have an abortion. She is carrying a child whose father is unknown. What should I do in the future? But what about Alara? She has been with you from having nothing to now. Is it fair for you to sacrifice her to repay her kindness? We have been together for 8 years. She will understand me, just as she has always supported any decision I made. Between her and me, there is no need for that piece of paper. But Cece is different. She is weak and cannot take care of herself. Chapter 14. What is the truth? The scene was silent. Levi seemed to be struck by lightning, his eyes wide open, standing stiffly without moving, like a cold sculpture. In this recording, you can clearly hear Levi's voice. And the other one is his good brother. I was slightly surprised. After all, the effect of this recording was better than anything I could say. It completely nailed Levi to the wall. Fake. This is all fake, sister. Where did you get this recording? It's too much. You actually hurt song like this. Ivy broke down first and rushed towards me like crazy. The moment she pounced on me, I quickly retreated. Then, the big screen unexpectedly lit up again. There is no seamless transition to another video. The conference room of a 5-star hotel was rented as the venue for the press conference. An LCD screen occupied the front wall, and the moment the content was presented, it was accompanied by unbearable sound. Husband, I came back to China to give birth to a son for you. You can't treat me badly. In the picture, Ivy, who was wearing a gauze nightgown, and a fat middle-aged man, her delicate and tempting lips fell on the man's fat face without any disgust, kissing all the way down, making the man gasp for breath. Little fairy, don't worry, I will take you back after I transfer all the property of that tigress. I will bear with you for the time being, but that tigress is very cunning, don't worry. I've already found a backup. I'll find a way to get a certificate when the time comes, and your son will be born legitimately. The conversation was interrupted. So exciting, even more ridiculous than the 8 o'clock drama. Even I couldn't help but be dumbfounded, looking at Ivy. It was clearly Ivy who stole my fiancé, but now seeing the truth, I actually felt sympathy for Levi for no reason. Looking at him, his face was paler than a ghost, his gaze shifted from the screen to Ivy. And a grown man's eyes were forced to turn red, his chest heaved up and down, and he finally opened his mouth, but no syllable came out. My father also had a very ugly expression on his face, and my stepmother, feeling guilty, stood in front of the big screen and kept shouting, "No looking, no filming." Then, the scene was completely out of control. What surprised me was, Ivy's body was so fragile, but she didn't have a miscarriage, however. The press conference immediately became the #1 hot search topic. Levi gave up his fiancée of 8 years and became a cheap father to a big boss's mistress, losing money, reputation, and brains. To Levi, the weak and helpless by Yue Guang. Wang Baochuan is not as good as him at digging wild vegetables. Tell a joke. Levi became popular. His company also went bankrupt. Interestingly, I was lucky enough to escape from this round of cyber violence. There isn't a single discussion about me online, neither praise nor criticism. Ivy hid in the hospital and refused to see anyone, but she could hide from the media but not from Mr. Chen's wife, who heard the news abroad. One day, she disappeared from the hospital along with her belly. My father and mother were looking for someone like crazy, but my father was no longer a nouveau riche. He had no resources or connections, and he didn't dare to call the police, so he could only ask Levi for help. But now Levi hates Ivy so much that he can't take care of himself, and he can't help her even if he has the means, so the result is that they tried every possible means to contact me. The moment I received the call from my dad, I was in a good mood and even gave some advice: call the police. There was silence on the other end. Alara, Dad knows that I owe you these years, but consider this as Dad shamelessly asking you for one last favor. Just think of a way to help find your sister." His voice was more humble than ever before, and even his apology sounded particularly sincere to my ears. "When I find your sister, I will force her to kneel in front of you and kowtow to you to apologize," he added, with certainty, but I remained unmoved. I was already past the age where an apology could heal the pain. I lowered my eyes, carelessly stroking the pattern on the porcelain plate in front of me, and said, "No need, I have already given up on it. It's neither forgiveness nor letting go. I don't care about it anymore. However, as a moral reminder, you all know who Ivy offended without me having to tell you." After saying that, I hung up the phone without waiting for the other end to speak, looked up to meet the teasing gaze of Ji Lianqing, who was sitting opposite me, and continued the previous topic. "Mr. Ji, let's continue to discuss the salary I will get from your new company. Chapter 15. If love happens to you, will you accept it?" Just today, he has acquired all shares of Levi and successfully took over the company. The funny thing is that until the moment before he was kicked out of the board of directors, Levi believed that the 15% of shares he gave me was his last trump card. "What does Secretary Gu want to talk about?" Ji Lianqing asked me back. I don't know if it was a coincidence, but our position was the same as the last time I met him to discuss cooperation. Even his face still had the same lazy and mischievous look as before. The ending of his tone was raised and drawn out, and his slender white fingers were playing with the silver lighter. "The whole person is very careless." I pursed my lips and used the opponent's force to counter the opponent. "That depends on what Mr. G is willing to give." Click. I saw the man opposite me close his lighter. His eyes fell on me. His expression gradually became serious, and his body slowly straightened up. "If Miss Gu is willing, what I want to give her most is the position of Mrs. G." I froze, my fingertips feeling numb. "Ji Lianqing, you should have watched the press conference." After a long while, I spoke, my voice full of fatigue, folded my hands, rested my chin, paused, and continued. "At the moment, I don't have the courage to accept another relationship, I'm speaking frankly, but my refusal did not make the man in front of me unhappy. Instead, he nodded in agreement. "I understand, although the garbage has been disposed of, the disgusting feeling is still there." This metaphor, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "But Gu Alara, if you want to have a relationship, can you give me priority and give me a chance to pursue you?" Ji Lianqing numbered one with a wronged look on his face, then touched his face. "Because I'm pretty handsome." I was silent, looking at this handsome face that looked better than 10 male models. I have to admit that I was a little moved. Ji Lianqing's method of pursuing people is very special. "Why did you wear the same clothes today as the day before yesterday? If you don't know, you might think my company is not doing as well as before. I will punish you by giving you a day off to buy some. Then, transfer the 7-digit amount, a last-minute business trip to Turkey. The private plane has been arranged. We may transfer to Tokyo or Paris or something. It's okay, everything can be bought now. Don't be nervous, just treat it as a normal business dinner, just in the name of my cousin's wedding." The one next to me with a worthless smile is my dad, and the one next to him who is patting his head like crazy is my mom. "My parents know that you are my secretary and will never ask you an extra question, although they think you are very capable and you are not as good as me." I sat at the main table and tried to reduce my presence. It's actually not difficult to fall in love with Ji Lianqing. His love is very straightforward. My independence does not mean that I don't need support, nor does my maturity mean that I don't need romance. He was serious and was pursuing me as if I were a girl. Even the methods are sometimes childish and clumsy. I heard that girls like domineering bosses who spend a lot of money. I thought the girls in Tokyo, Paris, and the romantic Turkey were using their power for personal gain. I don't know how he found out about my 18th birthday, but on my 30th birthday, he made me a cake and treated the entire company to birthday buns. "The cake is yours, and the birthday buns are shared by everyone. I can give you any kind of cake. Let's not be stingy and share the steamed buns." Also, every morning, there is a tulip in the vase at my workstation. Ji Lianqing, how do you know I like tulips? I couldn't help but ask out of curiosity. "I like tulips, but I haven't told anyone." Even Levi doesn't know, of course. Levi never gave me flowers, I guessed it, Ji Lianqing answered confidently and proudly. I saw the cover of your diary at the press conference was tulips, so I bought it thinking you might like it. On the first day you saw the flowers in the vase, you smiled sweetly. He had a look on his face that said I'm very smart. My heartstrings were plucked. Looking at Ji Lianqing's frank eyes, she pursed her lips and asked, you watched the press conference, you should have seen that Ivy read my diary. Even though I didn't find the content there disgusting, it was still hard for me to talk about it, especially when it was made public as a joke. I stared at Ji Lianqing behind the table. Not wanting to miss any expression on his face, Ji Lianqing's face darkened. I felt very unhappy when I heard this. My heart sank as well, the fingertips curled up. Just when I didn't want to listen anymore and wanted to turn around and leave, I saw Ji Lianqing gnashing his teeth and saying, how come I can't have such a good thing as being secretly in love with you? I was so envious that I almost bit my gums off. Puff. I couldn't help but watch Ji Lianqing beating his chest and stamping his feet. Suddenly he leaned forward and pressed towards the man in front of him. At that moment, I saw Ji Lianqing's face turn red quickly, visibly. That look is kind of cute. The smile in my eyes became even more intense. I half supported my body and pressed him against the wall. I hooked my lips and said something in a calm and relaxed manner. You can't have a secret crush, so if you were to fall in love, would you accept it? Ji Lianqing, Chapter 16 Levi's Confession. Levi regretted most was that he was soft-hearted when Ivy came to him. He was born into a wealthy family. I have been pampered since childhood, but everything changed when he was 15 years old. My father's company went bankrupt and he couldn't bear the blow, so he committed suicide. He and my mother were driven out of the villa and moved to a 40-square-meter basement. My mother, a wealthy lady who had never done any housework, was forced to work to support him, but she died of illness within a year. The funny thing is that the cost of medical treatment was only 20,000 yuan. It's just 20,000 yuan. He can't afford it. From that time on, he was determined to make money and live his previous life again. To achieve this goal, he learned to flatter others. When he was in college, he heard that a nouveau riche was interested in investing in his entrepreneurial project. So he tried every means to establish a relationship with him. He finally got a chance. The birthday party of the Jiyu family's youngest daughter. After 3 months of scrimping and saving and overdrawing his credit card, he finally saved enough money to buy a decent gift. At the banquet, he dressed in his best and went there in person. But standing in the crowd, looking at the little princess of the Jiyu family shining brightly under the crystal chandelier, Levi felt very uncomfortable. After all, he was like this before he was 15. What's more, he saw that the gift he had prepared with great care was just casually thrown among the pile of gifts by the little princess and was not noticeable at all. Even in his position, he was not even qualified to get a piece of the cake, so he left the banquet hall early. Just when he was feeling so depressed that he couldn't vent, he saw the girl squatting beside a stone pier with her hands clasped together, praying devoutly, facing a white steamed bun with a candle on it. For some reason, he felt that they shared the same suffering. For some unknown reason, he walked up to her and joked with her. Later, he found out that her name was Jiyu Alara, and she was actually the eldest daughter of the Jiyu family. But she was not favored and was an invisible person at home. She is completely different from Ivy. Ivy is bright, proud, and brilliant, just like he used to be, and Jiyu Alara, silent, taciturn, humble. Just like myself now. So, Levi understood Jiyu Alara, but he longed for someone like Ivy. After graduating from college, he even mustered up the courage to express to Uncle Jiyu his hope to develop further relations with Ivy. He thought that Uncle Gu's support for his project was a sign of his favor. However, what he got was merciless ridicule from Uncle Jiyu. He said that he was a toad trying to eat swan meat, and that he was almost worthy of his eldest daughter. But it was just a dream for his youngest daughter, the apple of his eye. For a long time, this sentence was a hurdle that he could not get over, so much so that even when he was with Jiyu Alara later, he still felt resentful about this matter. He knew that Jiyu Alara was a good person, and he also knew that their journey had not been easy. Every day and night when he couldn't bear it, He was glad to have her by his side. On the day when he was on a business trip to Country M to take on a project that was crucial to the company, Levi prepared a diamond ring and thought about proposing to Alara when he returned, but he didn't expect to meet Ivy. Even though the GU family went bankrupt, Ivy remained glamorous and beautiful. The two of them were like old friends reuniting, and during their chat, I could see that she was very well protected and still looked as if she was out of touch with the world. But she didn't expect that an accident would happen, and she was abducted and raped by those people in order to help her negotiate the deal. Even though she said she didn't mind and urged him to return home, Levi still felt bad. Later, Ivy returned to China. She came to me for help, saying that she was pregnant and could not have an abortion, and begged me to give her child a name, otherwise she would not be able to live. Seeing Ivy crying out of breath, Levi softened his heart. He knew that doing so would be unfair to Alara, but he still put the diamond ring originally prepared for Alara on Ivy's ring finger and got the marriage certificate with her. Cece begged to post on WeChat moments, saying that she hoped the child could be born in a legitimate way. Just 1 year, she said. A year later, when the child is born, they can divorce and she will set him free. Levi knew that this was very unfair to Alara, but he still held on to a lucky mentality. And when faced with Alara's questioning, he persuaded her to accept it. Wait for yourself for a year. Fortunately, Alara seemed to agree, but he could sense Alara's distance. He panicked, so he thought of compensation. He transferred 15% of the shares to Alara. Even though this 15% was the part that Alara deserved for her investment, but Levi still felt that Alara had accepted his proposal with a clear conscience by taking the shares. But what happened afterwards was beyond his expectations. Levi didn't expect that, at the press conference, his good brother stabbed him in the back and released the recording of their conversation. Even Ivy is calculating towards herself. Overnight, he had nothing. He was even kicked out by the board of directors. The company is gone, the wife is gone, everything is gone. He found his brother to confront, but what greeted him was a hard punch from his brother. The brother said that he was doing justice for the people and that's why he helped Ji Shao to expose the truth, and it is retribution for oneself. It is the law of karma and one has brought disaster upon oneself. Retribution. Levi smiled, returned to the villa, and began a life of drunkenness and dreams. He was in a daze for a whole year, until one day, when he looked at the calendar, he discovered that today was actually the 1-year deadline he and Alara had agreed upon, for some unknown reason. He dialed the number that he knew by heart but never dared to dial. After a brief busy tone, the call was connected. The moment the call was connected, Levi's breathing stagnated. He held his breath and heard the haunting voice on the other end, as if he were in a dream. It seems like we are back to the starting point. It seems that everything can start over again. Alara, the 1-year period is up. Can we get back together? He asked, holding the phone. His palms sweating and his voice trembling. The short wait of a few seconds seemed as long as a century to Levi, and his heart was in his throat. But a century later, he heard a sneer. Then, there was the bell-like laughter of the beloved girl. My child is not an illegal resident, so he doesn't need a cheap father. In that instant, Levi's heart seemed to be cut by a knife and bleeding. His world completely collapsed. Chapter 17 now is happiness. Hang up the phone. I stroked my bulging belly. Although it was only 4 months old, it looked extra big because I was carrying twins. Ji Lianqing was nestling next to me, staring at me like a police dog. His mind was not on the news on the LCD TV. Instead, he narrowed his peach blossom eyes and asked vigilantly, "Who is calling?" "You have very good ears." I pinched his ear in annoyance, pointed at his stomach, and smiled playfully. How many people like to be someone's cheap dad? When Ji Lianqing heard this, he sneered. Then took out the marriage certificate, put his hands on his hips, and turned his nose up. My daughter and son don't lack a father. But it made him too proud. 3 months ago, Ji Lianqing and I got our marriage certificates and started working. But I didn't expect that I would be found out to be 1 month pregnant during the marriage checkup. It is hard to imagine that Ji Lianqing, the CEO of a listed company, was crying and laughing in the Civil Affairs Bureau, telling everyone he grabbed that he was a father, like a fool. especially since he found out that he is the father of twins. He was so proud from time to time, like a peacock spreading its tail. He was even so crazy as to print out my pregnancy test report as a poster and hung it in the center of the living room of his old house. This behavior directly made him the public enemy of the whole family. It's so childish and confusing. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and hurriedly pulled him to sit down. Suddenly, I narrowed my eyes, looked Ji Lianqing up and down, and asked sinisterly, "I met Han Cheng some time ago, who is it?" Ji Lianqing blurted out, but his eyes kept wandering. I raised my eyebrows, straightened his chin, and smiled more harmlessly. "Levi's good brother. Don't you know him?" "But he knows you, he told me. A year ago, someone asked him for a favor. It is a good thing to help others." Ji Lianqing answered seriously, "Really? But I heard that this help was when Levi just got the marriage certificate. Why do I feel that someone had planned this in advance and had bad intentions? The recorded evidence did help me, but at this point in time, it's hard for me not to suspect that Ji Lianqing clearly had this planned in advance." "That's right." Ji Lianqing seemed to be unable to pretend any longer, so he simply gave up and took my hand and held it. With a frank look on his face, "I heard that the day he got the marriage certificate, I was so happy that I couldn't sleep all night. The first time I saw you standing behind that jerk Levi at a bidding event, I was thinking, how could this bastard be so lucky to find such a fairy?" With a light laugh, I leaned over and kissed Ji Lianqing on the lips, his breath smelling like orchid. "Now, the fairy has come to your house." At the same time, news report. Through the unremitting efforts of the police, a human trafficking organization in Myanmar was dismantled, and dozens of rescued girls returned to China. Among them, a woman named Ji Yu was the most seriously injured. Her family has been contacted.